sweet. I didn't know
It's
it
all
was
going.
recording.
That's why I'm on.
It's great.
DJ Moore, sleeper of the draft.
We should tell everyone
be.
the fantasy punishment for our team.
Yeah. Oh,
The league,
Kevin, it's gonna be
harp and
Kevin.
ball. The punishment
ball.
is that whoever loses has to dance on the dance team for one Monday
And if
night.
we can't get
every
you on the dance team, then you just have to. We'll box off a corner for you.
Yes, you're
and
gonna be dancing.
You're gonna be
that
dancing.
night.
Best believe we have some flags for you.
I am gonna buy one of those outfits too for like $25.
Nice.
I was really hoping
With the cross.
it would either be Dan Van Norton or Kevin, because I just want to see the two biggest guys.
I know.
Like
Well, Kevin
Kevin
it
is
might
0
be
4
Kevin,
right now.
I know. Could be.
which is surprising.
Yeah,
No, he's good.
yeah. Well, he cheated last year because Jeremy gave him all of his good players when he quit.
I don't remember doing that.
Yeah, I do. Because that's how I lost. That and DeMar Hamlin screwed me out of the finals last year.
DeMar, Mr. Vaccinated.
You see Aaron Rodgers called Travis Kelce
Yeah,
Mr.
Mr.
Pfizer?
Pfizer.
Yes. You know, the first time I saw that commercial, I was like, something's gonna happen.
Yeah.
There's
for
too
sure.
many NFL players, especially Aaron Rodgers, but too many that are just totally anti-vax.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
For him to get away with two, right? The whole thing is double
Yeah.
or two things at once, whatever it is.
Crazy.
We should start by just talking about Taylor Swift. How are you processing
Oh,
that?
yeah.
That works. I was very upset. I was very, very angry, and then I felt convicted about how angry I felt because, like, I was like, why do I care so much about this stuff?
Wow.
You know? I'm sort of in like an ecclesiastic season right now where it's just like everything is pointless. What are we doing? Like,
You're in that season a lot.
I really am, bro.
Right.
He has a Jeremiah prophet.
Right.
All the time. All the time. It's so exhausting.
I feel like the NFL is in that like first love moment. You know what I mean? You know when like you first encounter the Lord, it's all you can talk about, and
Yeah.
it's like you find the Lord in everything, and it's like, oh, yes, you know, I have full gas. Yes, thank you, God.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, now we're all just kind of whatever. It's one of those moments. It's like, oh, we finally have a celebrity that is like world famous coming to these games, and they just so happen to be with like a star of our league. This is all I can talk about.
Yeah.
This is like their
That's
encounter
great.
with the Lord, except it's Taylor Swift
Yeah.
instead.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a whole bunch of conspiracy theories I could bore you with. But
Regarding Taylor Swift.
yeah.
Oh my.
Well, the big one is she's a witch. That's what I've heard. So
She probably is.
every successful artist, actor, something, everybody says is a witch.
we
Like,
had to get Pastor George and ask him though, right?
dude? Not for
From
nothing.
Ignite.
He talks about that stuff?
He's
So,
like
dude,
he has a whole book about it.
Like, yeah, his book is
Right?
coming out. His book is coming out now. He spent 10, 15 years in witchcraft.
Promote
Oh,
the
wow.
promote
Like
the book.
heavily deep in it. It's called Original Settings.
Just do it. Because actually, I want to know too. Because I want to get it.
Yeah, so it's actually, it was birthed out of the school of ministry that our church started called Matrix University. And it's all about, you know, a journey to freedom. So we have, 3 semesters, so to speak. It's a 9-month course. The first course is all about grace and understanding the grace of God, the sacrifice of Jesus, and, understanding that we are not separated from the Lord and things like that, getting that foundational stuff out of the way. The second semester is identity, kingdom, all about being, sonship and things like that. And then the third phase is freedom. So it's pretty much this journey through, salvation and really letting things go and understanding how, a lot of like our emotional reactions and stuff like that are based off of traumas that we haven't allowed the Lord to heal us from. And he had this encounter in Alaska where, he owns multiple properties and, businesses and stuff like that. And he was getting really short with people who owed him rent or like were behind on rent. And he immediately, his mind would go to, oh, they're trying to take advantage of me. They're, whatever. And while he was down there, it was this encounter with the Lord where the person teaching said, what you need to do is ask the Lord to show what it is that's causing that inside of you, like what it is that's causing you to come out of character and out of your original design from what the Lord created you to be. You know, anger, frustration, depression, anxiety, we've talked about this a bunch, is not how we were created. But there are things that have happened to us maybe in our past that we haven't let go of, that is now our default, you know. And he remembered this moment, you know, of him being bullied when he was younger, and a kid taking his lunch money and like taking advantage of him. And it was just some kid that the kid means nothing to him now. You know, I'm not going to reveal his age, but he's older. He's a grandfather now. So this guy like doesn't really mean anything to him now, but somehow throughout his life, because of this situation that went unresolved, that, you know, this kid is running his life essentially. So it's essentially the book, it's called Original Settings, and it is all about how we can get back to our original design and what the Lord has created us to be when we feel ourselves coming out of that. And freedom is a big part of it. He goes into his testimony. Like I said, 10 or 15 years of witchcraft.
I didn't know he was in that at all.
Heavily involved. He used to go to DR. And they would have, you know, these conferences and stuff like that. He used to have this this witch that he called back in DR whenever he needed things, and you know, the witch would straight up tell him what was going on in his office, and like, oh, this is what's going on. It was crazy. So then what ends up happening, he goes to DR, he has an encounter with the Lord. He pretty much comes back and he goes, God, if you're real, come and get me. And and again, he talks about this in the book, for nights, the faucets going on and off in his house, doors are slamming, lights are turning on and off, his bed is shaking. And, you know, his son, Serge, I don't know if you guys have met, he plays guitar. He's played at RP a couple times, but he was like 12 years old at the time. His wife and stuff there, like the bed's shaking, it's all going crazy. And that was going on for, I think, weeks. And he was living on Broadway at the time, if I'm not mistaken. He comes downstairs. He goes to go walk across the street, and a lady in a minivan stops in the middle of the street, looks at him and said, "You asked for me, here I am." And then began to tell him things in his office, like, you know, this is what's going on. You have this woman, you have these two women, one you have a kid with, one you don't have a kid with, this and that. I'm going to be back here at 7:30 to pick you up. I have somewhere to take you, and ended up taking him to church.
Wow.
He had this crazy encounter with the Lord. He goes back to DR to go to a church event there, gets baptized with the Holy Spirit, was speaking in tongues for days, ends up meeting with the witch that he used to call on all the time. He was in his, I don't remember if it was like a hotel or wherever the heck they were. He was up in his room. Somebody came and was like, there's a woman downstairs that wants to talk to you. And it was that witch that he was dealing with back and forth. He said he went down and he heard the Lord say he needs to hug her. He said her eyes were black and everything, like you couldn't see. He said, I hugged her and she instantly dropped to the floor.
You're kidding.
And she serves the Lord still to this day.
Wow.
That same woman that was a witch that he used to go to constantly for things and tell me which saint to pray to and what I got to do, this and that. He had an encounter with the Lord, meets up with her in DR, hugs her, and she immediately felt the embrace of the Lord. An encounter was freed right there, and she's been serving the Lord ever since.
That's great. Do you think Christians are aware enough of that type of thing, the occult, witchcraft, and the reality of that stuff? Because I don't. I feel like most Christians are just think that's fairy tales, and I've been saved, so that stuff doesn't matter. Yep. But it's very real.
So there was this, during one of the freedom classes, he had a teaching on witchcraft and the occult. And he ended up making it a chapter in his book about it. And I was saying there's so many people that I think, like myself included, who's like, witchcraft, the second you say witchcraft, my brain shuts off, because I'm like, I've never done any of that. I've never gone to a psychic. I've never done the tarot cards, the candles, the seances, anything like that. And then he was talking about how sometimes we act as like our own witches or warlocks, and we put spells over ourselves when we say things like, I'll never do that again, like I'll never let this happen to me, no woman is ever going to play me again, I'm never going to do this and this and that. He's like, you're building these mini altars on the inside that are now controlling you. And I thought about it, I'm like, how often so many Christians and so many believers have been casting spells on themselves, you know what I mean? And like building these altars on the inside, and they're like not experiencing the freedom because they're not really realizing that they need it. You know what I mean? Like when you go to like an AA meeting or something like that, they say the first step is admitting it. Like, oh, I'm so-and-so and I'm an alcoholic, or I'm so-and-so and I'm a drug addict. The first thing you have to do is recognize that you have a problem. So if we don't recognize that we have the problem, or we could potentially have the problem, we're not experiencing what we need to, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Word curses.
Yeah.
Are real. Do you know, I don't let my kids say, I actually don't let them say I can't about anything. Even if it's the most impossible thing, whenever they say like, I can't do this, it's too hard, I make them change it right then, because I don't want that in their mind.
What do you make them change it to? Like I'm having a hard time with this right now.
I don't go super like, yuppie with it and get weird, but I make them say, this is really hard, but I can get this if I work at it.
Got it.
Now, when they say stuff like, I can fly someday, then that one's tricky. You're like, well,
okay,
maybe. Okay, we'll talk about that.
John G. Lake did.
Yeah, exactly. Try, right?
Exactly. But no, so it's what you're saying. Like what you speak over yourself does have power. Yeah. I think.
Yeah. I feel like it's such a complicated topic, to be honest, because I think that we've been so, how do I say it? It's almost like that whole world has been so cartoonized, we've, whether, us millennials here, and Ryan, you're an honorary millennial.
That's right. Because of my immaturity.
Yeah.
I'm 10 years younger emotionally than I should be.
You get publicly disciplined enough where you
yeah, exactly.
But like it's like we like us millennials, like we grew up watching like Disney movies, and I'm not, don't get me wrong, I'm not the guy that says I'll never let my kids watch Disney movies. I mean, I still love Disney movies, but yeah, they're incredible. But but like when you
Disney all the time.
when you look at so much of it, and Harry Potter, like I also watch Harry Potter, you know what I mean? Like, but the point is all that whole world has been so just like pointy hats and like, lady with a green face and like a crazy nose, like stirring a pot, and and then fairies, which is like the good side of it, or whatever, some cartoonized light side, some cartoonized dark side, and it just sort of has become so like it almost feels to me, if I'm being honest, even for myself, even though like I know that stuff exists, and I know that it's probably affecting our region and even ourselves, and our churches and our families so much more than we are aware of. I have a hard time not feeling like a demon hunting Israel mom, like when like it's talked about, like the moment, because I'm sort of in the same boat. Like I hear like, oh, it's witchcraft, or when a prophet starts talking about witchcraft, like I'm like the natural reaction to me is to sort of sit back and like eye roll and be like, come on, like all right, all right, Wizard of Oz, Dorothy, it's time to go back to Kansas. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, we'll let him get that out for the three people in the corner that are like actually going to fortune tellers. The rest of us are waiting for a real word, But the truth is, though, I mean, like, God gave us authority to speak. He gave us authority to create with Him, and just because we, yes, we've been redeemed, yes, we've been saved, but we're still on the side of eternity before Jesus has flipped the script again and actually cashed the check of the cross for the entire world. Right. Obviously we live in measures of the kingdom now, but there will be a day where every aspect of creation will bow down to what He did on the cross. So we're in that in between right now, and while we're in that in between, and we're still fallen people that are saved by grace, I don't know, what does it do to me when I constantly, say I can't do this, or when I constantly, maybe even constantly praise, trivial things in my life. Maybe I am building altars. We joked about the NFL thing, but maybe I am building altars to entertainment and, frivolous entertainment and stuff like that when I'm constantly talking about that stuff and not the things of God.
Yeah. Or like when we're pulling up like an NFL game while we're playing piano.
Right.
Never
like
done that.
MDing and watching a game. I'm not saying
I just declined for
it.
the night when the Bills are playing, so I'm going to have to.
But no, I think that's true. I feel like culture itself has kind of caused like society to be desensitized to all of it. You know what I mean? Like you get used to it. And it's always like the little things, right? You can see it all progress. Like I can remember being younger, and we could really open up a can of worms with this. I remember being younger, things that were tolerated, that weren't tolerated back then are like fully accepted and pushed in the forefront of everything. Sure. You know what I mean? Sure. And like values that believers were supposed to have back when I was 8, 9, 10 years old. Mm-hmm. Now that I'm 30, we've become like so wayward on them, and we're very much like, oh, well, the grace of God accepts everybody. And it's like, yes, no. The grace of God does accept everybody. But like you said, we're on the side of eternity that we're not absent from consequence still. You know what I mean? Like we still have to deal with, we may not have to deal with an eternal consequence right now, but we're like, again, if I start to like mess with witchcraft or anything like that, I'm going to be dealing with the consequences here right now. You know what I mean? If I speed, I deal with the consequence here and now. The cop doesn't care that my soul is saved and then I'm going into eternity. I go as fast as I want up there. He's like, well, too bad. So I think like gradually over time everything kind of has become normalized now. I just I think I shared it with Ryan earlier. I saw there's a school out in the UK now that you can get a degree in witchcraft and the occult. And now I'm thinking, I'm like, this is, I was talking with, one of my buddies earlier. I sent it to him also. And he was like, yeah, this kind of stuff has been available in schools for a while. And I was like, yeah, but now this is like, you could get a stone cold certificate that like, this is something that I have studied, gone in depth. I am a doctor in it, and it's school. So it could also be government funded. You know what I mean? Like you think about whatever financial aid and all this other stuff, like because it's school, because it's a degree, the government can kind of help you. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. All of this stuff is stuff, again, though, that I don't think it wasn't accepted 20 years ago. Yeah. You know what I mean? Nobody would have done that 20 years ago. Yeah. But gradually, little by little, the comical things, the comic book stuff, the little, what is it when you kind of like let something go? What is
compromise?
Yeah, the little compromises throughout the years have now like, it's trash.
And I also think, and maybe this sort of opens it up into the big picture here, at least for the church. I think that also part of the reason is because we really don't. I've been thinking about this a lot. We really don't have a grid for the supernatural, period.
Right.
Yeah. So it's
I was just sitting here thinking that.
Yeah.
It's not just, we're talking about witchcraft and those things specifically, but really what it is the supernatural.
Right.
Totally.
Sorry, I cut you off. But
no, you're 100% right.
That was exactly what I was thinking.
And, I'm like, well, why would I believe in the dark aspect? Like, why would I have a context to the dark side to it if I don't have a context for the light side or just the supernatural in general?
Right.
And like, man, it's been a while. This is usually it feels like back like when we were younger, like you get a few year gaps in between like a move of God, like in a certain place where there was like crazy signs and wonders and healings and all that kind of stuff. But man, it's been a minute since we had a revival. I mean, we had that little, we had a very sweet, genuine move of God that felt like a surprise earlier this year at Asbury.
Right.
But that was not necessarily a renewal as characterized by the Bible, where you are seeing signs and wonders are actually the primary thing that is happening,
right.
and they are opening the door to the gospel. That's
Exactly.
how it always was in the Bible. Always.
Right.
I mean, Paul said to the Corinthians, he said, I didn't come to you with eloquent speech. Like I left the PowerPoint at home. You know, like he's like, I came to you with signs, wonders, the display of power. And yet our churches have become worship that, in many ways has been a lot of times even the music is designed to minister to the soul rather than to the spirit. Mm-hmm. So it stirs your emotions. And then, we get our brain activated by sitting for a great sermon. And then we go home when it's like, man, like I thought this is supposed to be a supernatural gospel. Like we're talking about a gospel that's supposed to change people. And like if I'm looking at the drug addict or the drunkard or just the regular guy or girl who's just living their life, a little bit of promiscuity, a little bit of greed, a little bit of lust, a little bit of gossip, like it just, just like whatever. Like I'm supposed to be able to show them something that's worth leaving that stuff at home. Like why am I going to tell them to deny the flesh and then, what do I do now? Go to church. Okay, that was a great service. What do I do now? Come back next week.
Right.
You want to join the fellowship team? Say hello to people, and when they walk in, we'll give you a T-shirt.
We need ushers.
Yeah. Like, this thing's got to be so much more than that. It has to be.
Right.
But now, so how much of that do you think is an American issue? I love our nation. I'm proud America. I love it. I'm not trashing the United States at all. How much of that is an American church problem because we don't need the supernatural?
All day. All day.
Because think about it. Like if I'm sick, physically sick to the point where I need to see a doctor, I can pick up the phone and Google 15 urgent cares around here. Which one's open? Which one has the best doctor? I didn't like that doctor. Go like we just. Why do I need to pray for a miracle or pray for healing when it's not urgent?
Yeah, I mean,
and that's just the physical here, and we have so much here.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, it's almost. I think about this a lot, and I've just in my own personal wilderness of feeling like it's been so long since I had an encounter that left me affected. You know what I mean? Like, not saying that I didn't recognize God's presence was there. Not saying I can't recognize God's taking me in a season. But I'm talking about those encounters where you don't care about anything anymore.
Right.
I don't care what I'm missing. I don't care how long I'm here.
Right.
I don't, and I am feeling it for days, and it's affecting the people around me. Like, it's been so long, and I meditate on these things, and I contend, and I'm still working it out. But I'm just like, we don't know how to be. It doesn't cost you anything to be a Christian here.
Right.
It really doesn't. I mean, what happens, you get persecuted for being a Christian in America. We pull our phone out, we film it, and then we upload it on social media like, "Oh, see what's happening with our country. Right. You can't be, like whatever, and look at these liberals, like but in China, if you accept Jesus, like you are like that that's jail time.
Right.
You know what I mean? But you don't care because you prayed for the jailer and his leg got healed. You know, you gave a word of knowledge to your prison mate, and you're so excited and overwhelmed and stimulated, spiritually stimulated in a godly order because you're watching the power of God break out around you. Like, we were meant to be entertained. There's a reason you're addicted to football and I'm addicted to football, and there's a reason for that. We were meant to be entertained. There's also a reason why I feel really fat and lazy if I indulge all day on Sunday in football at the end of the day when I turn the TV off and I'm like, ugh. Like, there's a reason for that because
you're a Jets fan.
Yeah.
That was just waiting there. To say.
Yeah,
I didn't
set that one up.
Beyond that, it's because I was made for more. Like, we were made to be entertained. We were made to be stimulated and live out of the overflow of that stimulation.
Right.
But we're meant to be like overwhelmed by the power of God. We're meant to want to drop what we're doing because there's a move happening at the church down the street.
Right.
That model of Christianity is so foreign right now. Yeah. In this country.
Mm-hmm.
You become too satisfied with the little things of God, right? The chills, the goosebumps, the this, the that. like the backside of his glory and all this kind of stuff, when, you know, we're supposed to be experiencing the fullness. And I think about, we get too afraid to offend people too. Like, oh man, if we preach the real gospel, you know, so-and-so might take it the wrong way, or, you know, this person might feel like we're judging them, and this person, like, man, like, not for nothing, if you preach the unadulterated, thank you. If you preach the unadulterated word of God, God will take care of all of that. You know what I mean? And the disciples weren't worried about being offensive. Jesus wasn't worried about being offensive. They got ridiculed for it. They got put in jail for it. They got killed for it. Like, yeah, I think that, you know, the whole consequence, it's the whole consequence. We don't understand or really care, you know what I mean, about all the consequences that everybody else deals with for being a Christian. We're in our own bubble. I feel like our nation is in its own, like, little bubble, all on its own. It's like, I'm not gonna say it, but I'm gonna keep it quiet.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying. We're just in our own bubble, man.
And even like our friends we know in the Middle East, I won't say where, but we know people working within the church, the underground church in the Middle East.
Yeah.
And just hear, like, when I talk to those people personally and I hear a story, 30 seconds in, I'm just convicted and like Jesus, not convicted and like not condemning myself, but just saying, God, I miss that, because I've had seasons where I literally didn't want anything else. Nothing else mattered. I would go, at the time I was in school, I would go to school, do what I had to do in school, just so that I could be done with it and get home and put on like a Vineyard CD and just be in the Word. And that was not because I wanted to perform into it or because I felt a duty, but that's what I wanted. Yeah. I was talking in the class about this that I just taught at RP. We were overviewing Tabernacle of David, and we were just talking about first love the whole time. And I was saying, David, what was it, 4,000 musicians for 30-something years, paid them full time. That he wasn't trying something out. He wasn't doing an experiment with that kind of money and with those resources. There was something. He was so consumed with first love that he put his money where his mouth is and built that Tabernacle of David, spent billions of dollars. I think Mike Bickle has figured it out. Like it's billions, if not trillions, over 33 years. But we were talking about first love and how in Revelation, I think it's chapter 2, to one of the churches, Church of Ephesus, I think, Jesus says, you've done all these things. Great. You've tested the false apostles. You hate what's evil. You've persevered. You haven't given up. Yet as good as all of that is, if you've lost your first love, not just you got to readjust it, but I'm going to remove your lampstand. I'm going to actually take your ministry away so that you're not a light of ministry, because that's what I believe the lampstand means. If you're doing it without first love, I'd rather you don't do it, even though all the other stuff is right. And I think that's the issue we're talking about.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to get into works and flesh, and then before you know it, you've built a monument to the Lord instead of an altar. That has been a word I've been chewing on for myself. It's not like I'm preaching it out there to everyone else, but it's like, where am I building monuments instead of altars? Because it's a lot easier to build a monument, man.
Doesn't involve your heart.
No, you can pay someone. You can pay a company to build your ministry monument on Instagram without even picking up your phone.
Wow.
You can literally hire a marketing company and they'll build whatever you want, and then everyone looks at it and it's great.
Right.
But you don't. If the first love aspect is not there, that's what I feel like Jesus is saying. I don't need your Instagram monument. I'd rather you didn't do that at all, because what he's after is the heart.
You can build the monument and take no part in it.
Absolutely.
Like, you know what I mean?
It's never been easier. It has never been easier.
Yeah.
Man.
And so that's now we get into things like the Shulamite and that all of the stuff that Mike Bickle has, in my opinion, nobody talked about that stuff ever before Mike and IHOP got the revelation on that. And that's really what it's all about. That first love sitting at the feet of Jesus is really what it's all about. Yeah.
And he is his presence.
Right.
You know, we talk about the presence of God so many times, like it's like the Force, you know, from like Star Wars.
Right. Yeah.
You know, it's like he releases his presence and we pray for that stuff, and that I don't think it's wrong to pray for that stuff.
And then you get the Benny Hinn,
and
then everybody starts falling out.
Yeah. You know, and we act like, you know, his presence is it's an object that he releases. Like, no, his presence is when he walks in the room.
Right.
It's the fragrance in the spirit that is released as he walks in the room, and he comes where he's valued. He comes where he's longed for. He's always done that. And that's the whole message of the Shulamite is, she's fine. He loves her, but there's that verse in Song of Solomon 1 where she essentially says to him, "Why should we be lovers at a distance? Like, I see you over there, I'm over here. My flock is sort of a mess. I'm doing my thing. I'm burned a little bit. My brothers are giving me a hard time. Like, whatever. Just life is happening, and I see you over there. Like, why should we be veiled? Why should there be a distance?"
Right.
And he takes her on this journey of drawing out of her a pursuit.
Yeah.
I think the Lord does that to us, with us in a lot of ways. You start serving God, and you go through seasons where He's all you want, right? And then all of a sudden, like, before you know it, like, you don't really know when it's changing. You don't know when it's happening, but you wake up and you say, "It's been 6 years."
Yeah.
Like, I'm so far removed from feeling that way, and I didn't realize it. And many times we get discouraged. I'm the chief of discouraged, faithless people. But the truth is no. Like, what if he didn't leave? What if he simply just stepped out of the room, still close enough, still watching, still longing and burning to be with us, but he stepped out of the room to produce a reach in you, to produce a search in you. The Bible says it's the glory of God to conceal a matter. It's His glory to, like, hide something.
Right.
And then it's the glory of kings. We're kings and priests to search it out. It's this divine game of hide and seek that He loves. Like, it's a romance.
Yeah. And part of what I was saying about the American church is that's it. What you're saying is we don't feel like we need to search Him out. We're satisfied. We're in comfort. We have everything we need. There's 5 Walmarts within a mile of here.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, so, why should I search out? I'm really tired. I'd rather, I just need to chill tonight. I'm gonna finish 17 episodes of Suits or whatever you're watching.
Right.
But that's what I mean. It's like you're in that place, and so there's no searching because you don't feel like you need to search.
Right. And then you also have, like, all that the church talks about anymore is that He'll never leave you or forsake you, so He's always right there. You never have to worry about it. Like, you know what I mean? And I don't know if I would necessarily say, like, maybe He steps out of the room, which maybe He does. I have no idea.
Yeah,
but
whatever. It's a metaphor.
Like, how often do we, like, kind of just put things right here?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, me doing this, it doesn't change the fact that you're still sitting right in front of me. However, you're not the main focus anymore. I started writing a song because all I kept thinking about was how often I've put things in front of the Lord. You know what I mean? And how I've always felt like He was here, but I forgot what He looked like. You know what I mean? Like, I know that when I need Him, I can turn around and He'll be right there. But at what point is it like, does He stop becoming the last resort? When I need Him and I have nothing else, I'm going to run to You, and starts being the first option, and is like, to avoid running out of everything, I'm just going to stay connected to the source, and stop removing things, stop putting things in front of my face. And the start of the chorus, it says, "Jesus, be the foreground," which is like the very front of whatever is going on in the landscape. Like, if you do film or anything like that and you add depth to a film, when something is in the foreground, it's at the very front. It doesn't mean that nothing else is there. It just means that this is the very first thing. So what if Jesus becomes the foreground and everything else that I see is filtered through Him? You know what I mean? He's the first thing, and everything else I see after that is what He wants me to see, what He wants me. He becomes like that. I don't want to say He becomes a filter, but it becomes a filter of what,
He's the lens
you're looking.
Through which I see everything.
Right, exactly. You know what I mean? And then that makes it so that our heart comes in line with his heart. Our
Right.
desires come in line with his desires. That verse in Psalms, delight in the Lord and he will give you the desires of your heart. It's not saying like delight in him and he'll give you what you're asking for. It's delight in him and he'll become the reason you're asking for it. Like what you're asking for now, the desires of your heart will come in line with him as you delight in him and as you're looking at him, as things are no longer standing in the way, getting in front and distorting the vision. You know, like when you have cataracts, so you have a lens in your eye, and over time it starts to cloud up and it has all these proteins, and that's what cataract is. And what happens is everything in front of you is all still there, but your vision starts to get distorted. So what they need to do is they need to go in, break the lens, and replace it with a new one. And it's like, God, replace my lens so that you are the only thing that's right there.
Yeah.
You know?
Amen.